Hi guys, I'm Bobsy, and in this video we're going to be continuing off from where we left off last time. Last time essentially we got the round logic working, so we can now, play a couple of rounds and we can get a round winner by the end of it. In this one I think we should need to be tracking the scoring a little bit better, being able to show a scoreboard. I think that's a really nice sort of middle stage now, being able to show kills and deaths and so on. Cool, so first things first, let's go into our states again. And I actually want to change something from how we did it last, so I don't actually want to be tracking the round wins as to how we're doing it right now anymore. I don't think this is the right way to go about it. So for now, I'm going to be taking it out of the round end state. And also, I don't think we need to actually be sending through the winner. I think instead we'll be pulling who is the winner. So I'll be doing it like this instead, which obviously means we already have a way to enter the state. And yeah, we don't need to enter the next state either with the round wins. So we're going to go to the end state. And we're going to stop this from being generic as well. And this we're also just going to be pulling it whenever the game ends. So we don't need to calculate the winner here. The game has now ended, and that's just what we're going to leave it at. Cool, so we essentially just went backwards a little bit, removed some of the logic. You can see in the round running state as well, we also need to remove who is the last player alive. This is no longer really important. We're just going to enter the state anyway. Oh, we still of course need to watch out for that there only has to be one player or less left. All right, great, cool. So now this is essentially what we need. We don't need to keep track of the players up here anymore, I think, either, because we just have them in the data here. Oh no, sorry, we do need to keep track of them still. Yeah, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. All right, I think this should be it. So now I think we should be back to the round logic as we had before, which essentially just allows us to loop the game a bit. So let's go and test that out to make sure that works. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to run over and kill this guy and see that the round restarts. There we go, it restarted, he respawned, and kill him again, it restarts, and the third time we should be announced as a winner. Cool, and there we go, game has now ended. Great, okay, so this all works. Now, what I want to do, and the reason for this is because I wanted to have a separate score manager. The reason for this is I just want to keep it separate of the states, because this is sort of persistent throughout the game. I'm just going to make a game manager object. I'm going to zero it in the world, like so. And I think we should go in and make a new script under the managers, and I'm just going to call this our score manager. We can add this to our game manager, like so, open it up, and let's just immediately make this into a network behavior. All right, awesome. Now we've got to figure out how we want to track scores, kills and deaths and so on. And I think what we want to do is we should keep it as our own struct. So I want to make a public struct that will be score data. And this will essentially be stuff like public int kills. This will be public int deaths. And we could keep track of other stuff in here, but this is essentially it. And let's also just make it system.serializable so we can actually draw it in the Unity editor. Cool. Now what we want to do as well is we want to keep track of a dictionary. So let's make a private sync dictionary. So this way we can sync it to everyone. And this can be player ID to our score data. So we can keep track of the score data for every player. And we're just going to call this, scores is a good name. There we go. Cool. And let's also serialize this, because one cool attribute of sync dictionaries in Pernet is that we actually serialize them. I'm not sure how it's going to exactly look with the score data, but otherwise we can actually get around that in a different way, which I can show you. So first of all, let's just try and do it like this. So we can make a method that's called add kill. I'd rather just go through this one by one to begin with. So first things first, let's make a private method as well, other than the add kill. Let's make a private method that is check for dictionary entry. This is because we want to make sure that when we get a new player ID in, they need to exist already in the dictionary. So the first thing that we do is we just check that they exist in the dictionary. And then after we run this, we can essentially change it exactly how we want to, right? So we can take the data out. This will be the score data of the player. Then we take the score data .kills, we add a kill, and then we add the score data back into the entry. The reason why we have to go back and forth like this is because it's a struct. If this was a class, we could just edit it directly. However, classes are less efficient for serializing, which you do when you network. So this is really just a way to keep it efficient. So let's also just in here do the logic that we need to do. So what we essentially will do is if the scores contains key, or it does not contain the key of the player ID, then we will create it. And that's not contains, that is contains key. And then we'll take the scores.add, and we will essentially create one with the player ID to new score data, like that. So now we essentially just set it up, and that's really all we have to do. I just don't like repeating code, and in case we want to be able to do more in here in the future, it's nice to have. So let's also make a public void add death, like so. And this will once again take in the player ID of the player who needed to get a death added. And we can pretty much copy the exact same code, except this just had to be deaths. And that should be the same thing. All right, great. Now, another thing is we can use the instance handler of pernet, which is very useful to get instances instead of singles and stuff. I think I already explained this in a previous tutorial. So I'm just gonna go over it very quickly. So we're just gonna set it up in awake and in onDestroy, do instance handler.unregister instance to the score manager. Perfect, so now it's registered in the instance handler. This now means that when a player kills another player, we can then give the score. And now I think we should be handling that immediately. So you can see here we actually already have an on-player death, which gets called from in here in the player health. So let's go back to where we call this. This essentially is where the player now dies. Now another thing we want is we want to know who killed them. Who was the one to hit the killing blow. And the easy way to do that is we can get the RPC info, which we can just call info equals to default. When we equals it to default like this and it's an RPC, pernet will automatically send you the information about who sent it. So what we can use this for now is we can use this to award a kill to the one that sent it. So we can do instance handler, and I think we should actually, let's do it the proper way. So let's do an if statement and then do instance handler.tryGetInstance. And we will get the score manager from in there, and we'll just call it score manager, and then we can expand this. And essentially what we want to do now is we want to do score manager.addKill to the one to the info.sender, who is the one who sent the RPC. Great. And we can also do score manager.addDeath to the owner of the object, because he is the one that died. And before we just use owner.value, we of course, it's always a good idea to set it in here in the if statement saying owner.hasValue. There we go. So in case the owner does not have a value, that'll still just work fine. Great. So now it actually should be adding kills and adding deaths correctly to our score manager. So let's go and give that a check real quick and make sure that both work. So what we can do is we can keep track of the score manager. You can see under scores, we can expand scores and serialized dictionary. And now it actually should hopefully write out correctly. If it does, I'm going to remember to save the scene, reload over on my client. And let's have a look. So now my client's going to shoot my server. Here we go. Oh, and you can see it just writes out as score manager plus score data. This was kind of expected because it can't really serialize just a custom struct like that, but we can actually help it serialize it by writing it to string manually. So let me show you that real quick. So under the score manager, we can just override the toString like so. And essentially what we want to return in here is we can return kills and deaths like this. And I just want to do K and D because we already know, or actually, let's just do it with a slash in between. This is how it's normally done. So let's just do kill/deaths. And now it should serialize in the dictionary like kill/deaths. And we can actually just remove the system.serializable as well. We don't need that. And we likely don't need it to be public either, but we might want for future purpose. So let's just keep it public. So we go, my client is going to come over here, kill the server, and there you go. Now you can see that player 2 has 1 kill, 0 deaths, and player 1, which is our host here who just died, has 0 kills and 1 death. Awesome, this seems to work. And now when I kill this, both of them should have 1. And there you go, now you can see 1-1. Awesome, and this is essentially what we can draw out as well in a scoreboard. So let's set that up very quickly. All right, great. So we already have our canvas. Let's go into 2D mode again and enter the canvas. And we have the main game view where I just really quickly also want to add a crosshair just because I think it's very nice being able to see where the center of my screen is. I'm just going to make it a generic picture and just make it very small, like 10 by 10, for example, just so we have this little cube in the middle. Something like maybe 9 by 9 is better. Whoops, not 5. I don't know, something like 8 by 8, I guess is what I'll make it. I'll make it just slightly see-through as well, like that. Cool, just so we have a little point as to where is our middle. You can of course make your cross however you want it. I just think it was nice to have. Now let's also make a new view. So this will be the scoreboard view. I want to expand that to be the full screen of size as well as last time, and make it scale with the full screen size, like so. Cool, so now we have this view, and essentially we want to do similar to last time. So first of all, we want to set up the canvas group. And also on the UI, I also want to set it up as a script, call it scoreboard view. And we will of course make this into a view as well and make sure that it inherits from the stuff that it needs. with the magical Alt Enter, as I've shown a couple of times. And cool. All right, so now we have this scoreboard view. And let's go back into Unity and make sure that we add the script onto the scoreboard view. And let's also make sure that we add it onto our view manager. So we have all views in here. Great, so now they're both set up in here. Awesome. Now we also remember to feed the canvas group, of course. And let's set up the scoreboard. So I'm gonna go into UI, I'm gonna just have a panel, and I'm gonna set that to essentially be, I don't know, somewhat the size of the middle of the screen here. And I wanna set it up just to anchor to the middle of the screen. I think that should be fine. So there goes, now it should stick to the middle of the screen when you scale it. Awesome, I think that looks good. Let's make it a bit darker. Let's make it a bit more visible, like so. So I still want it to be see-through, but I want it to be mostly black. And then I'm just gonna call this background. And then essentially in here, we can then hold the information. So let's set up a title. So let me do a text, and this will be the title. This will be the scoreboard. And we'll just set it something like this. I'll put it in the middle. I'll make it thick and bold, and then I'll make it a bit bigger, put it up at the top, something like this. Now it says scoreboard in here, great. All right, and then the next thing is I wanna make a layout group. So I'm gonna take this, make it full width all the way down, and this is gonna be our content. And I am going to give it a vertical layout group. If you're not familiar with Unity's UI stuff, it's very good to familiarize yourself with it, but you can just follow along in what I do here for now. That should work just fine. I'm not gonna force it to expand the children. I'm gonna say that it starts from the upper center. And I'm gonna make some content for it real quick, just so we can test with it. So for example, I'm gonna put an image in here, which is gonna be a player entry. Let's just make that like a light gray color or something like that, just so we can very easily see it. I'm not here to make it pretty, I'm here to make it functional. So as you can see now, when we get more player entries, they will stack up like this when I just duplicate them. Great, so that's a good start. That's the player entry. And then let's just add some text to this. Maybe making it full black is better. That's probably better. All right, let's add some text to it. UI, Text Mesh Pro. This is gonna be the name of the player. I'm gonna put that on the left-hand side, something like that. And this is just gonna be Bobsy for now. I'm gonna give it a little bit of padding on the left, like that. And make it sit in the middle. All right, I think that's good. Then I will duplicate this, drag it over here, and this will then be our kills, which will be, I don't know, let's just put an example number of 5. I will make it sit in the middle, and then I'm gonna duplicate that, drag it over here, and this will be our deaths. So let's just make this 2, for example, just so we can see how it looks. And you can see now if I duplicate the player entry, how this will look. All right, great. And I think also actually just for good measure, let's lower the content a little bit. And let's have a space up here as well for other titles. So this is gonna be the name title. I'm just gonna put that down here, put it in there, drag it to the left and make it smaller. And this is going to be the name. I want that hanging on the left side, a little bit of margin, great. Gonna put it to the center, gonna duplicate that, like that, make them somewhat line up. This is gonna be the kills title, kills, put it in the middle, and we're gonna make a one for deaths as well, deaths, like that. Great, so now I think it's nice and clear what's kills, what deaths, what's the name. All right, awesome. And I'm gonna rename that object as well. And then the player entry, let's also make a script for that. I'm gonna call it a scoreboard entry. And opening that up real quick, this is just gonna have a few things in here. So this is gonna, first of all, serialized field, private tmp_text. And this is gonna be the player name text. I think we can just call it name text. That's probably nice and short. We also need the kills text and we need the deaths text. And then let's make a public void set data. That's just going to be the string of the player name, going to be the int for the kills and an int for the deaths, like that. And then we essentially just set up the values to the text. So name.text to the player name, kills text.text to the kills to string, and deaths to string. Awesome. There goes. Now we have the scoreboard entry, and let's add that onto the player entry that we have here. Scoreboard entry. I'm going to drag and drop them all in here. So that's the name, that's the kills, and that's the deaths. Great. Now let's drag and drop this into our prefabs folder, and I can now delete it. Awesome. And now we can have the scoreboard view handle the rest. So let's serialize the things that we need. You serialize a transform that's going to be the scoreboard entry's parent. Then we're going to serialize the scoreboard entry, which is the prefab that we need. And that should essentially be it. And so now what we can do is we can also register this actually as an instance. So I'm going to do instance handler.register instance. And this is going to be this. And of course on destroy, we also have to instance handler.unregister instance to the scoreboard view, like so. And then we can just have lastly a public void set data, which will take in the data of the players. So let's just take in a dictionary of player ID to the what do we call it? The score data, which is of course in the score manager, and this will be the data. Cool. And now what we can do is we can for each through this, and we can essentially populate it. So we can take our data as the point that we iterate through. We just call this a player scored. And then we will take an instantiate. So we'll do var entry equals to instantiate of the scoreboard entry prefab to the scoreboard entry's parent. Great, so now it should parent under that. And then we can do the entry.setData, which will for now, let's just do the data.key.id.toString for the name. And then let's do value.kills and player score.value.deaths. There we go. That should be all the ID points that we need. And yeah, so that should be able to be set up. Now in the scoreboard view, what we can do is in the score manager, we can now react to when the scores change. So let's do scores.unchanged plus equals to onScore changed. And let's also unsubscribe from that again to do it properly. Let's use the magical Alt Enter to take this. And then, yeah, we do the instance handler.tryGetInstance out of the scoreboard view. And then we want to do the setData.scores.toDictionary, which is a part of the sync dictionary to just give you out the clean new dictionary from that. Cool. All right, so this should now work. The only thing we now need is the ability to actually open and close the actual scoreboard. And I think there's multiple ways to do that, but we can just do it in the scoreboard view maybe for now, and we can always figure out if we want to handle it somehow otherwise. Just open up the update view. We can do if input.getKeyDown, and we can do keycode.tab. Then it'll open the view, and we will essentially need the we'll of course need the view manager, game view manager I think I called it, which has an instance registered. So maybe let's first of all start by getting all of that. So let's make a reference for it. So let's do a private game view manager underscore game view manager. And then let's set that and find that in the start method, just to make sure that it's not in await, because that might be too quick. So there we go. Just do game view manager equals to get instance of game view manager. Hopefully that should just work. And then this should show view, which will be the scoreboard view. And it should be false in here, which means we don't want to hide others, because we want it to act as an overlay. And then we can do if input.getKeyUp, then we do keycode.tab, and that will do underscore game view manager.hide view, which is the scoreboard view. Awesome. Let's try and see if this does the trick and if we've set up the game view manager properly to handle this as well. So make sure that you save your scene to test, and let's try and start up. So you can see, first of all, our scoreboard view isn't here. And when I hold tab, it pops up. And when I let go of tab, it closes down again. Obviously, nothing is populated yet because nothing is set up. But if I just go ahead and I shoot him, oh, you can see something failed. Instance of something is null. What is this? Oh, of course, we didn't set up the prefab. That's my fault. Of course, so that's on the view. We need the parent, which is the content here. And then, of course, we also need the player entry in here. Great. All right, let's try that once more. So I'll run over here shoot him down, there we go. And when I hold tab, you can see, oops, it's been added a bunch of times. Of course, this is fully my mistake. The reason for this is because obviously a lot of things just changed in the dictionary, which caused it to set the data. And what we need to do first, of course, every time we set the data is remove the existing data in there, which means we want to remove all the data that is on our transform of type transform. We want to get all the children, and we want to, of course, as you say in Unity language, destroy the children. So do child.gameObject. Don't quote me on that. That's just what you have to do. Oh, and of course, it is not of the current transform, it is of the parent.transform. Of course, we want to destroy the parent's children. That makes great sense. Hold on, let me try and start up again, and let's have another look. So if I go and I shoot now here, bam, there we go, and you can see in the scoreboard, we now have 1 kill, he has 1 death. If we shoot him again, you should see it's 2-1. There we go. And yeah, that essentially seems to work well. And now all we need to do is just the ending game state, just needs to use the scores from the scores manager to decipher who the winner is. Just so we can go back to a point where we can call it as we did before. Awesome, so in the scores manager, let's just do a, how do we do it best? We do a public player ID, get winner maybe, like that. Oops. And we essentially want to do the same thing. So we do the same thing here, which is what it wanted to do automatically, which essentially just, we essentially just set a winner in the beginning, which is just default. That is essentially no one. And then we set the highest kills to 0. We iterate through all of the players. If their highest kills is higher than the previous highest kills, then we take the new player, which means we'll essentially just iterate through them all, find the one with the highest kills, and then get out of the one with the highest kills. That makes great sense. The only thing we have to be aware of is in the game end state when we do this. So let's just do if instance handler dot target instance. We get out the score manager, call it score manager. And let's just say if we do not get it, we will debug.log error, game end state failed to get score manager. With this as a reference, we'll return. And then if we do get it, now we want to do the get winner. So we do score manager dot get winner. And let's store this. So let's store this as var winner equals to the get winner. And let's also just do an if winner equals to default, just to make sure that we've actually gotten a winner. So if it is default, we want to log out that the game state failed to get a winner, then return. Otherwise, the game has now ended with winner as our champion. Great, and now we should essentially be back at a good state, and this time around with a scoreboard as well. So let's go and hit play, This guy will go and kill the server. Now we should be able to see that he has 1 kill. Now we should get 1 kill. There we go, it's 1-1. And we go over there again, kill him once more. And there we go, now it's 1-2, and you can see that we won because we are player 1, and we have won as our champion. Awesome. So that's it. You now also have a scoreboard in your shooter game. So I really hope this was useful to you. In the next one, we might look into a bit of weapon switching and how we might do that, create some different weapons, which I think is going to be really fun. And other than that, I hope you learned something for every video, and I just hope that you have a wonderful day.